The 1980s represented science fiction cinema's golden age when Blade Runner, The Terminator, and The Thing established themselves as genre foundations. Yet while audiences obsessed over these undisputed classics, genuinely brilliant films played in limited theaters, receiving minimal recognition before disappearing completely from cultural consciousness. These weren't failed experiments or commercial failures suggesting audience indifference. These were exceptional science fiction achievements that somehow slipped through cracks, separating critical appreciation from mainstream attention. Some possessed extraordinary budgets, yet received inadequate promotional support. Others achieved modest theatrical success before vanishing into home video obscurity. Many remained virtually unknown outside dedicated sci-fi communities, despite possessing artistic merit rivaling more celebrated productions. The 1980s proved that original science fiction could still capture genuine imagination before franchise monopolization crushed creative diversity. Today, we're resurrecting 10 extraordinary hidden gems from that era that deserve restoration in your viewing rotation, regardless of how many times you've rewatched the obvious classics. 1. Dreamscape, 1984. Joseph Rubin's Dreamscape employed sophisticated science fiction premise where protagonists enter sleeping individuals' dreams through experimental technology. Dennis Quaid portrayed a slacker psychic recruited to participate in military dream-sharing program. Rather than straightforward action thriller, Rubin crafted character-driven narrative where personal vulnerabilities manifested through dream imagery. The film employed distinctive visual effects representing dream sequences, surreal imagery suggesting authentic subconscious visualization rather than conventional sci-fi spectacle. What distinguished Dreamscape involved genuine emotional investment beneath concept premise, characters possessing authentic motivations, transcending typical thriller mechanics. The narrative explored how technology permitting consciousness access generated unprecedented ethical complications, suggesting that violating private thought represented ultimate violation. Quaid delivered committed performance, conveying genuine vulnerability. His character gradually understanding emotional consequences of accessing others' minds. The supporting cast, including Christopher Plummer and Max von Sydow, contributed substantial performances suggesting ensemble quality. What made Dreamscape perpetually overlooked involved commercial indifference upon release, the film receiving minimal theatrical distribution and promotional support, preventing mainstream accessibility. Critics frequently dismissed Dreamscape as mid-tier thriller, lacking distinguished artistry despite genuine sophisticated exploration. Contemporary reassessment recognized authentic achievement beneath commercial mediocrity, the film achieving cult status through home video. Discovery. Dreamscape demonstrates that thoughtful science fiction could emerge from mainstream productions when directors prioritize psychological authenticity over commercial calculation. 2. Outland, 1981. Peter Hyams's Outland deliberately established Western genre framework within space setting. Sean Connery portraying Marshal William O'Neill maintaining order on remote mining colony where living conditions remained brutally oppressive. The film employed frontier aesthetics, suggesting isolated lawman confronting systematic corruption, transcending individual capacity. Rather than conventional space opera, Hyams crafted deliberate Western emphasizing moral solitude and professional dedication despite overwhelming odds. The narrative depicted mining operation workers subjected to experimental drug enhancement, generating productivity increases while creating psychological deterioration. Connery performed the role with committed gravitas, suggesting aging lawman recognizing corruption he couldn't single-handedly defeat. The film employed practical effects, creating authentic industrial environment, contrasting with romanticized space imagery. What distinguished Outland involved genuine philosophical complexity regarding individual responsibility confronting institutional corruption. Connery's character forced accepting personal limitation. The narrative suggested heroism sometimes consisted precisely in recognizing personal inadequacy while performing duty regardless. What made Outland perpetually overlooked involved limited theatrical distribution and moderate commercial performance preventing critical establishment recognition. The film possessed commercial viability and artistic merit, yet received insufficient attention. Contemporary reassessment recognized Hyams's sophisticated directorial approach, combining Western and science fiction conventions effectively. Outland demonstrates that genre hybridization could generate genuinely distinctive cinema when pursued with authentic commitment. 3. The Hidden, 1987. Fred Decker's The Hidden presented uber-violent action film regarding parasitic alien inhabiting human bodies, the creature causing chaos and discord before abandoning consumed vessels for fresh hosts. Once victim bodies were destroyed, the entity simply possessed someone else, continuing its endless rampage. Rather than conventional alien invasion narrative, Decker crafted buddy cop film, where human detective partnered with extraterrestrial law enforcement officer pursuing parasitic creature across contemporary Los Angeles. What distinguished The Hidden involved audacious tonal blend, combining extreme action violence with deadpan comedy, the film maintaining genuine absurdist sensibility throughout. The protagonist featured Dale Cooper himself as the heroic alien police officer, creating unexpected chemistry between human detective and extraterrestrial partner. The action sequences demonstrated Decker's directorial confidence, choreography, emphasizing visceral impact over cinematic stylization. What made The Hidden perpetually overlooked involved commercial indifference upon release, mainstream audiences preferring conventional action. Cinema over unconventional premise, blending science fiction and comedy. The film's tonal ambiguity prevented straightforward categorization. Audiences uncertain whether pursuing genuine thrills or intentional camp comedy. Subsequent cult following recognized genuine artistic merit beneath surface excess. Contemporary appreciation, identifying The Hidden as exceptional action cinema achievement. The film demonstrates that action spectacle could accommodate philosophical complexity through genuinely creative premises. 4. Miracle Mile, 1988. Stephen D'Souza's Miracle Mile presents straight-faced dramatic thriller documenting rapid societal decline when nuclear attack becomes imminent. The narrative depicts two people dating as World War III begins destroying civilization through nuclear weapons. The film hits hardest of any science fiction concept, depicting story with absolutely no punches pulled. Rather than conventional disaster cinema providing heroic resolution, D'Souza crafted genuine apocalyptic meditation, exploring psychological implications of civilization's terminal prognosis. The narrative transitioned from romantic comedy into devastating thriller as nuclear catastrophe became inevitable, audiences experiencing genuine tonal whiplash, suggesting authentic dislocation. What distinguished Miracle Mile involved commitment toward realism regarding nuclear warfare's psychological impact, characters confronting humanity's extinction without cinematic reassurance. The film refused Hollywood convention, where resourceful protagonists discover salvation despite overwhelming odds. Instead, characters gradually recognized futility, their desperate attempts escaping proving ultimately meaningless. What made Miracle Mile perpetually overlooked involved challenging tonal approach, preventing mainstream accessibility. Audiences seeking entertainment encountering existential devastation instead. The film's refusal providing comfortable resolution frustrated audiences preferring narrative triumph. Subsequent critical appreciation recognized genuine artistic courage underlying filmmaking approach. Miracle Mile demonstrates that science fiction could explore authentic existential dread when divorced from commercial pressure toward reassuring resolutions. 5. Extro, 1982. Harry Bromley. Davenport's Extro presented gonzo science fiction narrative where boy's father disappeared mysteriously when mysterious light appeared in sky. 3 years later, the father returns transformed into alien being, intent on taking his son with him into extraterrestrial existence. Rather than straightforward alien narrative, Davenport crafted genuinely bizarre exploration of parental obsession and childhood displacement. The film employed distinctive visual style, employing practical effects suggesting authentic extraterrestrial physiology, transcending conventional rubber suit aesthetics. What distinguished Extro involved commitment toward weird conceptual territory, Davenport refusing conventional narrative logic, pursuing instead surrealist approach, emphasizing psychological unsettling rather than coherent plotting. The father-son dynamic suggested twisted paternal love, motivating alien parents' return despite recognizing humanity's incompatibility with extraterrestrial existence. What made Extro perpetually overlooked involved commercial failure and critical dismissal upon release, reviewers characterizing film as incomprehensible mess. The film's refusal conventional narrative structure frustrated audiences preferring straightforward storytelling. Contemporary reassessment recognized genuine artistic ambition beneath surface chaos, cult following appreciating Davenport's uncompromising vision. Extro demonstrates that science fiction could embrace genuine weirdness when divorced from mainstream commercial calculation. 6. The Quiet Earth, 1985. Jeff Murphy's The Quiet Earth examines sudden human extinction through soul-surviving consciousness perspective. Activation of experimental global energy grid resulting in planetary population disappearance. Zach, along with Joanne and AP, discovered plan attempting stopping destructive effect, threatening remaining reality. Rather than conventional post-apocalyptic survival narrative, Murphy crafted psychological meditation, exploring consciousness dependent upon social connection. The film employed extended environmental sequences, permitting audiences experiencing protagonists' psychological deterioration as isolation accumulated. What distinguished The Quiet Earth involved philosophical engagement regarding consciousness and meaning, suggesting survival possessed limited significance when divorced from human social context. The narrative depicted genuine psychological devastation from complete isolation, transcending physical survival adequacy. The supporting cast contributed solid performances, suggesting ensemble quality despite restricted cast requirements. What made The Quiet Earth perpetually overlooked involved limited theatrical distribution outside New Zealand and minimal international promotion. The film achieved modest theatrical success domestically, yet remained virtually unknown internationally until home video circulation. Contemporary reassessment recognized Murphy's sophisticated psychological approach and philosophical depth. The Quiet Earth demonstrates that regional cinema occasionally produced sophistication rivaling major productions through genuine artistic vision. 7. Real Genius, 1985. Martha Coolidge's Real Genius represented Val Kilmer's career achievement, the film becoming just under the radar classic hidden among actors' film credits. While difficult to classify as pure science fiction, the film possessed genuine sci-fi markings including geniuses, military, jets, lasers, wildly intelligent computers, and science experiments gone both incredibly wrong and incredibly right. Rather than conventional teen comedy, Coolidge crafted surprisingly sophisticated narrative exploring academic exploitation and military-industrial corruption. The film depicted young geniuses conscripted into classified military research projects, their intellectual capabilities weaponized for defense industry applications. What distinguished Real Genius involved humor emerging from authentic character interaction rather than forced comedic situations. Kilmer and fellow performers delivering committed performances, suggesting genuine ensemble chemistry. The narrative employed genuine intelligence regarding technological concepts, avoiding simplistic scientific inaccuracy. What made Real Genius perpetually overlooked involved commercial indifference upon release, mainstream audiences preferring conventional teen comedies over intellectually engaged approach. The film's satirical examination of military research exploitation possessed political sophistication, preventing universal accessibility. Subsequent critical appreciation recognized Coolidge's directorial sophistication and ensemble quality. Real Genius demonstrates that comedy could accommodate genuine sophistication regarding complex themes when pursued with authentic commitment. 8. Escape from New York, 1981. John Carpenter's Escape from New York depicted near-future world where global conflict and resource scarcity generated unheralded crime surge. In response, Manhattan Island converted into prison colony accessible exclusively through few bridges. Air Force One, attacked by terrorists, forced President's emergency landing in Manhattan. Government recruiting Snake Plissken, former Special Forces soldier turned major thief, for rescue mission, avoiding his own Manhattan imprisonment sentence. Rather than straightforward action film, Carpenter crafted distinctive science fiction, exploring political institutions' desperation and moral ambiguity. The film employed minimalist approach, emphasizing practical effects and character performance over technological spectacle. What distinguished Escape from New York involved Kurt Russell's committed portrayal of protagonist, the actor conveying sufficient depth, transcending typical action hero archetype. The narrative explored themes regarding institutional corruption and individual autonomy, suggesting bureaucratic structures operated according to logic, transcending individual morality. Carpenter demonstrated sophisticated understanding regarding how totalitarian frameworks corrupted institutional purpose beyond redemption. What made Escape from New York perpetually overlooked involved limited theatrical distribution and moderate commercial success, preventing critical establishment recognition despite artistic merit. The film received appreciation from specific demographics, yet mainstream audiences remained indifferent. Subsequent cult. Following recognized genuine achievement beneath commercial indifference, contemporary appreciation, identifying sophisticated political allegory beneath action framework. 9. Videodrome, 1983. David Cronenberg's Videodrome represented science fiction, horror exemplifying director's penchant for body mutilation, James Woods starring as television station head, discovering secret broadcast signal, depicting torture and assault appearing alarmingly real. Although initially bombing at box office, the movie achieved cult classic status with praise directed toward Cronenberg's eerily accurate vision of imminent dark future, dominated by screens and unquenching thirst for blood and authenticity. Rather than conventional narrative coherence, Cronenberg prioritized psychological dissolution, exploring consciousness corruption through media consumption. The film employed body horror, suggesting physical manifestation of psychological contamination, protagonist's corporeality literally transforming through media exposure. What distinguished Videodrome involved genuine philosophical depth, examining technology's capacity, violating consciousness autonomy. The film suggesting media possessed invasive power, transcending conscious resistance. The visual language deliberately unsettled audiences, Cronenberg refusing comfortable distance from depicted content. What made Videodrome perpetually overlooked involved initial commercial failure and critical confusion upon release, audiences struggling engaging with Cronenberg's deliberately challenging approach. The film's combination of explicit content and philosophical abstraction prevented mainstream accessibility. Subsequent critical reassessment recognized visionary approach, predicting media domination decades before contemporary cultural conditions. Contemporary audiences recognize Videodrome's prophetic quality regarding media manipulation and consciousness colonization. 10. Threads, 1984. Barry Hines's Threads depicted British life immediately before, during, and following almost complete global nuclear warfare destruction. Despite representing low-budget production, the film never skimped on presentation aspects, delivering intense, grisly, and visceral content throughout entire runtime. The film created stir in Britain upon release, requiring extended time circulating elsewhere. Even if appreciated during 1980s, the film remains arguably more powerful contemporary viewing, consistently feeling realistic, harsh, and plausible should nuclear warfare ever occur. Rather than conventional disaster cinema providing heroic survival narrative, Hines crafted uncompromising meditation regarding nuclear warfare's psychological devastation. The film refused cinematic softening, instead documenting genuine horror emerging from atomic conflict. What distinguished Threads involved complete commitment toward realistic depiction, Hines refusing heroic protagonists or convenient plot resolutions. The narrative depicted civilizations, complete breakdown, social order dissolving into prehistoric conditions within hours. The supporting cast contributed committed performances, suggesting ensemble quality despite restricted character development opportunities. What made Threads perpetually overlooked involved challenging subject matter, preventing mainstream accessibility, audiences avoiding films exploring nuclear annihilation, regardless of artistic merit. The film's refusal providing psychological comfort, frustrated audiences preferring escapist entertainment. Contemporary appreciation recognizes Threads' exceptional science fiction achievement, exploring existential dread through unflinching realism. Threads demonstrates that genuine artistic courage sometimes meant pursuing difficult subject matter despite commercial viability questions. How many of these hidden 1980s science fiction gems have you actually experienced? And how many have disappeared completely from your viewing consciousness despite possessing extraordinary artistic merit? Which of these overlooked films will become your next rewatch, pulling you away from repeatedly experiencing obvious classics toward discovering buried treasures? Comment below, revealing which 1980s sci-fi hidden gem you've watched and which deserves immediate rediscovery from your streaming queue. Better yet, tell me which genuinely brilliant 1980s science fiction film should have made this list. Which overlooked masterpiece you believe deserves equal recognition alongside these already exceptional entries. The 1980s produced remarkable science fiction that mainstream audiences never encountered, theatrical releases receiving limited distribution, while mainstream blockbusters dominated exhibition opportunities. These 10 films represent genuine artistic achievement, deserving far greater recognition than they received during initial release or subsequent theatrical windows. Sound off regarding your favorite overlooked 1980s science fiction because, honestly, resurrecting these hidden gems proves infinitely more valuable than repeatedly rewatching the same celebrated classics dominating cultural conversation. The 1980s contained extraordinary cinematic brilliance buried beneath mainstream obscurity, awaiting rediscovery.